He stole what I worked for. Long nights, endless effort, and when the bonus came, it landed in his hands, not mine. He thought he'd walked away with my reward, but what he didn't see coming was that his victory would cost him his job. How about you, friends? Have you ever had a coworker steal credit or take what you earned? How did you handle it? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Today's video is the story of how my colleague got my bonus, only to lose his job in the process. Stay tuned, hit subscribe, and let's dive in. It started with a project that nearly broke me. The company had landed a massive account, one that required weeks of late nights, endless data crunching, and a level of precision that left no room for mistakes. I poured myself into it, skipping lunches, staying until the janitor made his last rounds, even logging in from home after midnight. My manager knew, my colleagues knew, everyone saw the work I was doing. It wasn't glamorous, it was grueling, but I was determined to deliver something flawless. And I did. When the final presentation went out, the client praised it as one of the best they'd ever seen. My manager even patted me on the back. "This is excellent work," he said. "The higher-ups will be impressed." So when rumors spread that bonuses were coming, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Hope. After years of grinding, this was finally my chance to be recognized. But then came Friday afternoon. We were gathered in the conference room, waiting as envelopes were passed out. One by one, names were called, checks distributed. I waited, anticipation building. When my turn came, I opened the envelope, only to find nothing. A flat standard paycheck. No bonus. At first, I thought it was a mistake. But then I looked across the room. There he was. Derek. My co-worker. He was grinning ear to ear, waving his envelope like a prize I had earned. My stomach dropped. He strutted over, clapping me on the shoulder. "Tough luck, buddy," he smirked. "Guess management liked my contributions better." Contributions? The man hadn't done half the work. He'd hovered on the sidelines, picking up scraps, then swooping in at the last minute to add his name to the report. I forced a smile, but inside, I burned. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the numbers in my bank account. That bonus would have meant bills paid, savings secured, and Derek had stolen it, without shame, without guilt. My wife placed a hand on mine. "You can't let this go," she said softly. "But don't fight him with anger. Fight him with the truth." And so I began to plan. Because Derek thought he had won. But he had no idea the storm he had just set in motion. The weekend after that disastrous meeting, I couldn't shake Derek's smug grin from my mind. Every time I pictured him holding that envelope, laughing about his bonus, my chest tightened with anger. But my wife's words kept echoing. Don't fight him with anger. Fight him with the truth. So that's what I set out to do. First, I pulled up my email archives. I had dozens, no, hundreds of messages. Drafts I had written at midnight, threads where clients thanked me directly, updates where I was the one driving progress while Derek was checking in from home. I highlighted every single one. Next, I dug through project files. Each document had timestamps. Each revision showed who made the edits. And guess whose name appeared on nearly every critical change? Mine? Derek's? Barely a handful. I even remembered a night when Derek had messaged me. "Hey, can you clean up that spreadsheet for me before morning? My laptop's acting up." I had kept the message. Now it was evidence. Piece by piece, I built a timeline that told the real story. Not the fantasy Derek had sold management, but collecting evidence wasn't enough. I needed the right moment. If I went storming into the manager's office shouting accusations, I'd look bitter, jealous. Derek was slick. He knew how to talk his way out of trouble. I had to be smarter. The opportunity came sooner than expected. On Wednesday, our manager called another team meeting. The client had requested follow-up work, essentially a continuation of the project I had carried. Derek was already puffing out his chest, ready to volunteer. "I can handle it again," he said smoothly. That's when I spoke up. Calm. Controlled. "Actually, I've already prepared notes from the last project that will help us get started. Would you like me to share them?" The manager nodded. "Please." I handed over a neatly organized folder. Dates, tasks, client feedback, all laid out in black and white. Every entry showed the truth. The work had come from me. The room was silent as our manager flipped through the pages. His brows furrowed deeper with each turn. Derek shifted in his seat, his grin fading. "Derek," the manager said finally, "why do these records show Michael's name on nearly all of the deliverables?" Derek stammered. Well, he helped, but I coordinated. I was more of a leader. A leader? My colleagues exchanged skeptical glances. Everyone in that room knew the truth. They'd seen me grinding, staying late, carrying the weight. I didn't need to gloat. The silence did it for me. The manager closed the folder and looked me dead in the eye. Michael, I want to meet with you privately after this. Derek, stay put. For the first time since this mess began, I felt a spark of justice. Because Derek had stolen my bonus. But now the truth was on the table. And soon he was going to learn that stealing credit is the fastest way to lose everything. The meeting ended in a fog of tension. People filed out quietly, avoiding eye contact with Derek, who sat stiff in his chair. My manager gestured for me to follow him. Inside his office, he shut the door and leaned against the desk. Michael, he said, his voice lower now, I need you to walk me through this folder. Start from the beginning. I sat down, heart pounding but steady. Every late-night revision? That was me. Every data report the client praised? Mine. I documented everything, as you can see here. Derek contributed very little, and when he did, it was usually me correcting his errors. I slid the folder closer. Look at the timestamps. Look at the client emails. They all tell the same story. The manager flipped through page after page. His jaw tightened. Finally, he set the folder down with a heavy sigh. I'll be honest with you, Michael. When the bonus decision was made, Derek positioned himself as the driver of the project. I had no reason to doubt him at the time. My chest tightened, but I forced myself to stay calm. And now? He looked me square in the eye. Now it's clear I was wrong. For a moment, I just sat there, letting the words sink in. Wrong. He admitted it. The recognition I'd craved for weeks was finally sitting on the table in front of me. But recognition wasn't enough. Not anymore. What about the bonus? I asked, my voice steady. The manager hesitated. That money's already been paid out, but... He raised a hand when I opened my mouth. But this isn't over. Stealing credit, misleading leadership, that's grounds for serious consequences. And I don't intend to let it slide. The next day, Derek was called into the same office. I wasn't invited, but word travels fast in a corporate hallway. Colleagues whispered about raised voices, about Derek stumbling out red-faced, avoiding everyone's eyes. By Friday, the whispers grew louder. HR had been looped in. The executives were reviewing the project. Derek's story was unraveling thread by thread. Meanwhile, my own world shifted. The manager began pulling me into higher-level meetings, asking for my input directly. He even apologized, quietly but sincerely, for not seeing the truth sooner. You've earned more than a bonus, Michael, he said one afternoon. You've earned trust, and trust goes further than a check. It wasn't money in my pocket, but it was something Derek would never get back. The following Monday, Derek didn't show up. By noon, the announcement came. He was no longer with the company. Officially, it was a mutual separation. But everyone knew the truth. He'd taken my bonus and lost his job for it. I sat at my desk that day, the office unusually quiet. Some colleagues gave me small nods of respect. Others whispered, serves him right. And though part of me wanted to celebrate, I didn't. Because in the end, Derek's downfall wasn't my doing. It was his own. Lies can win you a check, but they can't keep you employed. The Monday after Derek's departure, the atmosphere in the office felt lighter. It was as if a weight had been lifted. Conversations flowed more easily. The tension that had lingered for months seemed to vanish. But beneath that relief was something else. Curiosity. People kept glancing at me, whispering, wondering what would happen next. By midweek, the answer began to take shape. My manager called me into his office once more, but this time his tone was different, not cautious, not defensive, respectful. Michael, he began, the way you handled yourself these past few weeks hasn't gone unnoticed. You could have caused chaos, shouting about unfairness, demanding attention. Instead, you stayed calm. You let the truth do the talking. That's the kind of steadiness we need in leadership. I blinked, not sure I'd heard him right. Leadership? He nodded. The executives want to expand the team. With Derek gone, we need someone to step up. I want that someone to be you. For a moment, I couldn't speak. Just a few weeks earlier, I'd been humiliated, overlooked, cheated out of the recognition I deserved. And now, they were offering me the very position Derek had always chased, the role he'd tried to secure by stealing from me. I appreciate the trust, I said finally, my voice steady. But if I take this role, I want to make something clear. I won't play Derek's game. No politics, no stealing credit. If the team succeeds, we all succeed. A slow smile spread across my manager's face. That's exactly why we're asking you. From that moment on, everything shifted. I wasn't just a cog in the machine anymore. I was the one setting direction, guiding projects, mentoring younger staff. Daniel, one of the junior analysts, pulled me aside one afternoon. Honestly, he admitted, when Derek got that bonus, I lost faith in this place. But seeing what happened, you give me hope. Makes me believe the system can still work. His words struck me harder than I expected, because this wasn't just about me anymore. It was about the message. Integrity outlasts deception. Over the next few weeks, I dove into the new role. It wasn't easy. Leadership never is. But with every challenge, I remembered how Derek had handled things. With arrogance, with shortcuts, with lies. And I chose the opposite. I listened. I guided. I gave credit where it was due. And slowly, the team flourished. Projects hit deadlines. Clients praised the clarity of communication. Even the executives, who rarely handed out compliments, began to nod approvingly in meetings. Meanwhile, Derek's name vanished from conversation. The man who had stolen my bonus had been erased from the story, while I was writing a new chapter. One evening, as I packed up to head home, I caught my reflection in the office window. The same man who had once sat there, crushed by disappointment, now carried something entirely different. Not just authority, not just respect, but dignity restored. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't loud, it isn't dramatic. It's simply living to see the day when the truth places you where you belong, and watching the liar fade into silence. As the weeks turned into months, I settled into my new role. At first, it felt strange, me sitting at the head of meetings, assigning tasks, guiding strategy. But the team responded. They weren't afraid to ask questions anymore. They weren't walking on eggshells like they had with Derek. Instead, they leaned in, trusted me, and together, we thrived. And that's when it hit me. Derek's theft of my bonus had been a turning point. At the time, it felt like betrayal, like everything I'd worked for had been stolen in a single envelope. But in reality, it had set the stage for something much bigger. The very thing Derek had snatched, the recognition, the reward, was temporary. Money gets spent, bonuses fade. But trust? Trust lasts. And because I had stayed calm, because I had let the truth speak louder than my anger, I had earned something Derek could never buy. One afternoon, my manager called me into his office again. "Michael," he said, "the executives have been impressed. You've not only steadied the team, you've grown it. We'd like to move you into a senior role." I almost laughed at the irony. Derek had chased that promotion for years. He'd lied, manipulated, and stolen credit trying to climb the ladder. And now, here it was, being handed to me. Not because I fought for it, but because I proved myself where it mattered most. That evening, I walked home with a lightness I hadn't felt in months. My wife met me at the door and I told her everything. She smiled, shaking her head. "See? The truth always finds its way." Her words echoed in my heart. Because she was right. Looking back, I realized I didn't need to confront Derek, didn't need to humiliate him, didn't even need to gloat when he was fired. His own choices had caught up with him. His fall was written the moment he decided to steal what wasn't his. And me? My rise had come the moment I chose integrity over revenge. The office moved on. Derek became nothing more than a cautionary tale, a reminder of what happens when you chase short-term wins at the cost of honesty. Meanwhile, I built a career I was proud of, one rooted in respect, not politics. And every time bonuses came around in the years that followed, I smiled. Not because of the checks, but because I knew no one could ever take from me what mattered most. My dignity, my reputation, my place as a leader who had earned it the hard way. And that, friends, is how the man who stole my bonus ended up losing his job, while I gained far more than a paycheck. This story taught me something I'll never forget. Shortcuts may win you rewards for a season, but they always come at a cost. Real success doesn't come from stealing. It comes from consistency, from honesty, from letting your work speak for itself. If you've ever felt cheated or overlooked, take this to heart. The truth has a way of surfacing, and when it does, it's stronger than any lie. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your own stories in the comments. And join me here on Office Revenge Tales for the next story of justice served.